good group going. So welcome everyone. My name is Alan. I'm the workshop director here for SPA, Student Planners Association. I'm joined here by Maddie Wilson, who's our president. And we are really excited to have Lee and Matt from Project Homes here to do a little presentation on their work and answer some questions you guys might have about affordable housing and planning jobs in general. So I'm gonna let them go ahead and take over. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Lee Householder, and Matt, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Matt Morgan, Director of Neighborhood Revitalization at Project Homes.
I'm going to share my screen, and good everyone. We're good to go on screen share, right? We're good.
We are, yep.
All right. Well, we're both excited to have this opportunity to talk about Project Homes and what we do, and especially to UVA students. So we have Matt is a graduate and my daughter Lizzie is a first year. So we are going to take turns going back and forth a little bit in our presentation. I'm going to give a brief overview of Project Homes and affordable housing and how we relate to that. And then Matt's going to talk about rehabilitation. And then I'll take over for a little bit and back and forth a little. And then we'll wrap up with some career discussion and take questions. So a little bit more about me. This is my 14th year as the CEO of Project Homes, and our organization has been around for 30 years. This year we're celebrating our 30th anniversary, and we were founded through an organization referred to as the Capital Area Agency on Aging, and each region planning district in Virginia actually has an area agency on aging, and some of them house housing programs and some of them don't. So they had the vision to start our organization 30 years ago. So we're celebrating that. And this is our founding executive director, Mary C. Payne. So she's had a big influence on us. Hopefully you'll understand a lot. We do a lot of different things, and we also do it in a lot of different places, not just Richmond. So we're actually in 30 localities. And that really depends on the program that we offer. And so we'll be able to give a better description of the different programs. This is a quick view of our org chart. We really divide ourselves into two primary divisions: affordable housing and energy conservation. And then we have the support services through fundraising and grant making and accounting and all the things that you need to support an organization, which we call mission support. So the fundamental way to think about it is in those two ways. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why housing is important. Thankfully, affordable housing and the importance of home and where you live is more accepted as a primary issue in our society. It hasn't always been the case in my career. I think the pandemic in some ways drilled home how, since we're stuck at home, how important all the aspects of where you live. So it is fundamental, and we work on making that fundamental part of people's lives better. And it's everything from, if you think about your house as an asset, it provides a financial opportunity. If you do not have a nice place to sleep at night, you have access to job stability. Can be, you might be late for work, obviously can affect your health overall. Your ability to, where you go to school depends on where you live and whether you get there on time. And then the fundamentals, like how you feel when you're in your house, either safe or comfortable or hot or cold. And it really has traditionally been, it's the largest wealth creation tool for individuals in our country. So housing is really important, and we're right at a lot of the things that you'll hear about today are about how making it better, whether it's building them or fixing them. And the other interesting thing that's part of what we do is what we were founded upon was a lot of to do with older adults. As people age in their homes, their ability to keep their house up to date through either skills or other disabilities, and you can become housebound, which really affects your psyche. And so it's really a big part of aging is how you feel in the place that you live. So aging in place, and there's actually a whole movement called ageism, that the word, even the term aging in place is now being referred to aging in community. But what happens as you get older, as you have a harder time going down the stairs, you might fall, and you certainly don't want your house to be the place that causes you injury. And there's a lot of information about the longer you stay at your house and live independently, it reduces social costs. So we focus a lot on not only making houses more comfortable and affordable, we also are really focused on how when people age, how they interact in their environment. So we're going to kind of break up in these two halves. Matt's going to talk about the first part of affordable housing, and then we'll talk about some energy, and I'll let Matt go from there. And I'm going to be advancing his slides, so tell me when I'm doing wrong, Matt.
All right. So yeah, thanks, Lee. As Lee kind of introduced, we've gone from this sort of small home repair arm from the area agency on aging to one of the larger home repair nonprofits in the state. And the way we approach affordable housing is to blend all of these different funding sources and look at a neighborhood in the same place that we're building and selling a house as the place that we're going to repair the home where somebody currently lives, and try to spread the resources around to try to impact the neighborhood the best we can. And I'm going to first talk about home repair and home rehab, and then we'll kind of move through everything else. So we do about 200 federally funded home repairs a year, and that is federal funding from HUD that gets distributed to municipalities, and then they have a grant award process that we submit to for funds to do these repairs. And we have sort of two levels of home repair. There's critical home repairs that are about $7,000 of hard cost home repairs per household. And then our moderate home repairs, which are about $45,000 per house. And we do about 170 of our home repairs are those criticals, which are the smaller ones, and about 30 a year are the moderates. And often it's folks that we went into the house and found that we needed to do more work than we could do with $7,000 is how we typically feed the system for doing the bigger repairs. But we serve those two programs in Richmond, Henrico, Chesterfield, which are the two counties that surround Richmond, and then three small cities south of Chesterfield, which are Hopewell, Colonial Heights, and Petersburg. Now I'll take the next slide. And the way we determine who can be served is actually set by HUD based on area median income. And you guys are all planners, so I'm sure you're used to the term, but we are guided by 80% AMI. So HUD releases this list every year. This is currently the income limit, which I've only ever seen it go down once, but it typically goes up every year. And based on household size, the chart shows the income that the household can make annually in order, and they have to make at or below that amount in order to be served by our program. And next slide. The way we approach what we do is we're looking for health and safety and building envelope, which this sort of dialogue around all of that has gone to this term healthy homes. So making your home a healthy place. And so our approach is addressing the causes of health and safety and building envelope concerns. So when one of our project managers pulls up to a project like this, they are going to try to identify the biggest bang for the buck items that will create the best help for the person who's in need of repair. So a project like this, the project manager, before they even get out of their truck, is seeing a roof that needs to be replaced, sort of a combination of original and replacement windows that either way look to be in pretty bad shape, and missing handrails and an inability for somebody who's in a wheelchair to get in and out of the property. So without even getting inside the house, they've identified three major things that need to be addressed. And from a healthy home standpoint, you then have to start prioritizing is somebody not falling off a porch a greater risk than the mold growth that comes from a leaking roof? Next slide. And we also can be guided by code violations. So these come from the code enforcement division of a municipality. Most commonly for us, that would be City of Richmond. And we can prioritize folks that have been identified by the city with code violation. And these are typically deteriorated exterior conditions. There are folks that have pretty poor housing situations that there are interior issues, but we try to address those kinds of problems as a priority. And then we're really looking for, like I said, the root cause of what is creating someone's problem. So when we see something like this, or if you go to the next slide, Lee, an interior situation like this with discoloration and damage and mold, we're not entering into the house in order to address the mold. We're going to try to come up with what the cause of the mold was, the cause of the damage is. And we see that as the best way to benefit somebody to prevent it from getting any worse. And then we are also addressing every major system in a house. So after we consider building envelope and their health and safety concerns, we look at electrical, HVAC, and plumbing concerns. And so obviously, if you get to somebody's house and they do not have heat from a basic healthy housing standpoint, that would be your first priority, because living without heat is not considered a livable situation. And then we do, to this day, spend a fair amount of funds upgrading electrical systems to 200 amps, moving panel boxes inside, addressing knob and tube electrical wiring, all health and safety concerns that folks are still living with today that a lot of us don't think about. And then this is Ms. Coleman in Chesterfield. She's one of my favorite clients that we've served. And she is a good example of a goal project, which is we got to her house, we replaced her roof, we addressed the siding that she was having a lot of moisture behind, and then repaired her damaged wood, and then she got a new heat pump, and she needed some kitchen, she had quite a hole in her kitchen floor. So we were able to do all of that. And it really represented a great efficient way that we can help folks with home repair.
All right, thanks, Matt. One of the really important things about home repair is it really affects someone's spirit too. I mean, you can imagine how depressing it is, and the financial burden. It is also hard to trust contractors, as as you grow older, you always realize, so we actually bring trust to people, and we manage contractors on their behalf. So the other shift for us is, as we've evolved, we've started a volunteer-based program, and we raise money to leverage the skilled labor of a lot of times retired volunteers, and get materials and try and address things that are in some ways more simple. And one of the biggest things we do is wheelchair ramp construction. And we have a very innovative program that we didn't invent, but we've perfected, which is building modular wheelchair ramp components. And we do them at our office in a warehouse component that's part of our office. And those components are built by volunteers under our supervision, and then we assemble the ramps throughout our community. And it's an instant solution to someone who has got, and it's not, everyone's not in a wheelchair, but if you're having trouble getting in and out of your house, a ramp makes a significant difference. We build over 125 a year, and we still kept close to that pace during the last 2 years of the pandemic. We utilize 1,000 volunteers, and a lot of the work that I do is about raising money for this program and telling the stories. And it is actually kind of easy to tell the story about what a difference a ramp makes. It's very tangible, and the people who build it see the immediate results. So if you ever come to Richmond and you want to be involved, let us know, and we'll put you to work building the wheelchair ramp. We also have a unique group of individuals who just spend their time doing small jobs. Railings are, Matt showed you that one house with no railings. We're not necessarily all about cosmetic improvements. This is all about functional in and out. And we can do immediate things that can make a really big difference, such as grab bars in bathrooms and railings as you enter and leave your house. We also have a neat program. One of our big challenges, so with our federal dollars, they have a lot of strings attached. The income qualification process, there's waiting lists, there's different priorities. We developed a program that is just immediate response for what we think is an emergency. So we go out and fix things that are crucial or situations that are dire. And we have some private dollars that we can really make a difference quickly. This is a great example of a client that we served in an area that was quickly gentrifying. So she was in a house that was kind of left behind. And it was, we were able to come in December and make all these improvements quickly. So that's an exciting program that we offer. And then this is something actually Matt Morgan developed for our business when he was in his early days, and it's blossomed into something we do every year, which is Keep RVA Cool. It's a air conditioner program where we just give out and install air conditioning units. And each summer we hire an intern to manage this project. So it becomes a wonderful opportunity for an intern to stay, to get engaged with our organization. So that's a segue for me. Oh, and we also do some heating. We give out space heaters, safe, reliable space heaters in the coldest time of the winter. So energy conservation, I'm going to talk about kind of quickly, but it is an important part of what we do. Energy work is in two big areas we call weatherization and utility programs. And utility programs pretty much means it's funded by Dominion Power, the power company. They actually have a program to help with energy conservation. So weatherization is a federal program it's from the Department of Energy, and it's been around since the mid-70s. And we are a regional designee in 3 regions of our state, which is why we serve 30 localities. And weatherization is all about a technical process of testing a home for how much air is being heated and cooled and lost. So if you can imagine, if you have a hole in your roof, you're losing lots of air, right? So there's lots to do. So we actually use a blower door test. And a blower door is an apparatus that basically pressurizes or depressurizes a home, and then we can determine how much air loss is at play. Then we address the air loss through insulation and air sealing, to oversimplify it. We also look for carbon monoxide. A lot of old heating systems, what they call backdraft, and they can create a very dangerous situation. This work is hard work. It's all about insulating underneath and above the house. It's about putting in better appliances and getting airflow improved in homes. And being under houses, it's really hard work. And it's really hot in attics in the summertime. But a simple way to think about weatherization is it's insulation and it's sealing cracks and crevices so that air doesn't leave. So we all pay to heat and cool our space. We don't want it to leave, so we're all about fixing that. We also do simple things like you wrap pop water heaters and address the appliances that can be kind of energy hogs in a home. This is one part that's really important, is so many homes were built in this era of the 60s and 70s without enough insulation. So a lot of what we do is actually, this is blowing insulation back in between the walls of a home. So it's really important work, but it's very specific, and it doesn't address things like a hole in the floor or accessibility. So we like to do weatherization last, address other critical needs that Matt pointed out, and then come in and we kind of consider weatherization like the icing on the cake. So if we walk away from a house that we've corrected, then it's going to be more stable, and you reduce consumption, which is good for all of us. It's safer and more comfortable, and we save people their monthly energy bills. So this is a really powerful program. And if you're really curious about a career, this is big gap in people who want to go into building science around energy. We have a really hard time finding people to work in this space. So just passing that along. Utility programs is basically Dominion investing extra dollars into leveraging it with the federal program. And we actually do a lot of apartments with this work. We make apartments are a huge underserved part of energy consumption. So there's no incentive for a multifamily property owner to make investments that make their tenants save money. It doesn't. So anyway, apartments offer a big opportunity for improvements, that especially the ones built pre-1980. And then back to Matt on neighborhood revitalization.
Yeah, so kind of the other piece of what we talked about in the beginning is our complete approach to neighborhoods. And lately, what we've gotten a lot of attention for is our neighborhood revitalization program, which is really home building and home renovating for sale. And we kind of have made a name for ourselves doing neighborhood infill, single family construction, and then taking on the blighted and, for lack of a better word, ugly properties that either nobody wants to go anywhere near or that the private sector just can't make work because it costs too much to fix, so much more than it costs to than they're able to sell it for. And this, I'll just add that the last slide we're almost dated on because we're about to hit our 250th house that we've completed and sold. So that's exciting for us. And we do about 25 a year. Between some years it's heavy new construction, sometimes it's heavy renovation. But we sell to first-time home buyers typically, and they're almost always low income at that same 80% AMI level that we do our home repairs for. And our coworker Marion has a great story from this. Was an early project for us in the Church Hill neighborhood in Richmond, that he spent the first day after we bought these things raking up needles and having to clean it up just to a point that our contractors would be able to safely start work on this. And then we are able to turn it into a product like these kids now live in, and they sell lemonade during the summer and all that kind of fun stuff that we look for in a community. But the way we do this is we are able to receive subsidy, and it's actually the same programs that we use for home repair. It's CDBG and Home from HUD, and they subsidize the cost basically between what it costs to turn what's on the left into what is in the right, and the fact that we actually have to sell it for a lot lower than it costs to do it. And if we go to the next slide, what we didn't anticipate when we started doing that was that neighborhoods like Church Hill and others that we work in have become really, really hot real estate markets. And every Bon Appetit and any kind of swanky magazine that writes a food article about Richmond, half the restaurants are in Church Hill, and it's a really popular place to live. So sort of what we've balanced with this is on the last slide, we were simply building a house at a high quality with as high of finishes as we could afford to do to try to entice somebody to want to live in a neighborhood that was kind of struggling. And now we've gotten to a place where we're trying to preserve affordability in a neighborhood that it is hard for somebody of a low to moderate income to purchase a house these days anywhere, but especially in a neighborhood where it's very competitive and price per square foot is very high. So along those lines, we started a process of analyzing, we call them skinny houses. I don't know if that's the most appropriate term, but they're under 13 feet wide and about 1,250 square feet. And from a simple price per square foot approach, you've got a lower cost because it's a lower price per square foot, and we're able to keep our prices in line with what someone who's lower income can afford. And from a density standpoint, you're able to take a lot that was with setback requirements able to be one house and make it into two when possible. So increasing density, lower square footage, smaller houses, trying to do what we can to preserve affordability. And then along those lines, we have partnered and we're the sort of one of the founding partners of Maggie Walker Community Land Trust. And I'm not used to talking to planners, but I'm sure you guys are somewhat familiar with what a CLT does. But the basics of it are, when we build and sell this house, we're selling the house to a person who is buying it, who is low income, and they're buying the house. And then we're selling the ground underneath the house to the CLT. And the land trust then owns that land in perpetuity. So when the buyer then sells the house later, that land is not part of the equation. So the price is always kept lower than your average home sale in the area. And then the CLT is they share responsibility for maintenance, and they have grown this sort of portfolio of houses that in neighborhoods like Churchill and in Jackson Ward and places like that with high real estate levels, they're able to preserve some affordability in those places. And then another kind of fun project we've had over the last few years is in the Randolph neighborhood, which anyone familiar with Richmond, that's sort of close in between the Fan and Maymont Park. And it is full of these small bungalow style houses that were actually originally scattered site public housing owned by the Housing Authority. And in your sort of classic urban renewal situation, when the city put in the downtown expressway in Richmond, all of these houses got moved, like picked up and moved to a different part of the neighborhood. So like on that picture on the top left, you can see that ridge on the foundation between the foundation and the house. And that is from when they lifted up the house and put it on its new foundation. And these are also helping us from an affordability perspective because they're very small. We're able to maximize space in these. So we've had to take some creative approaches like lofted office space that you can get to with a ship's ladder, and very small kitchens, small bathrooms, 2 to 3 bedrooms, but affordable and in a great location in Richmond that is access to parks and the Fan and kind of fun places to live. And then sort of the other piece of our bread and butter that we're working on is historic renovation. And we purposefully use historic renovation and not historic preservation, because our priority in the work we do with these homes is still to make them functioning, low maintenance homes for a low income person to purchase and live in. And we do our best to save any historic character we can, but our priority is energy efficiency, low maintenance, high quality. So this was a house in Petersburg that is a pretty funky place from a planning standpoint. You've got beautiful old homes, very low income folks on average who live there, and a lot of homes have fallen into disrepair. And so if you go to the next slide, I think, nope. Anyway, for Petersburg, it's just been a fun opportunity to do some more historic work. And people were so happy with that last project that we channeled that into a pipeline of about 5 homes that we're doing similar work on. And then our Solar Row project was in the Carver neighborhood in Richmond, which is another rapidly growing neighborhood as far as cost. It's very expensive to live there, both because of its proximity to downtown, but also its proximity to VCU. There's a lot of VCU students that live there. So people buy up those properties to rent them to students. But we had a unique opportunity, which was almost an entire city block of homes that were 5 parcels of land that, because we've taken this sort of narrower lot approach, we were able to subdivide them into 7 lots. Of 3 attached and 1 single standing home. And Lee was able to go out and privately fundraise against solar panels for each one of these houses. So we had a goal of a net zero house so that buyers could kind of come into this more expensive neighborhood and own their home with 0 utility costs. We got close. I think the size of the roof and its the proximity to the sun and which way they face result in the size of unit, but we're about 75% of their utilities covered by the solar panels. And so we sort of branded it Solar Row and celebrated it. And then another project we've had is Fiveday house build. It started off as 7 days, and that's in partnership with Philip Morris. And they have a team of engineering interns every summer, and they give them this sort of challenge of how do you build a house in a week. So we put in the foundation, and then their interns are responsible for hiring contractors, coming up with creative approaches to what trades you can do in the middle of the night and which ones you can't. And the first year it was 7 days, the second year is 5 days, and the third year they're calling it 4.5 days. But it's been an interesting approach to home building in this grand big world of 3D printing and shipping containers, that we're able to still see a creative approach to problem solving, which is how to build a house in 5 days stick built. And speaking of shipping containers and 3D printing, I'm going to kind of run through some of our innovative work we're doing, and I'm sure like questions will come up and we can come back to it, but I'm just going to introduce each of these things. So if you go to the next slide, Lee. We've done a shipping container house. We've done some work with modular homes. Lee's going to talk quite a bit about manufactured housing and sort of what we've learned through these experiments with these things. So I think the first ones are shipping container.
And we're already at like 30 minutes in, Matt. So we'll probably...
Okay, I'll kind of blast through. So this was this house is made out of shipping containers. We purchased it from a group in Idaho. And I think what we've really learned from this one is the size of the box matters. These are nice and small, and you can kind of swing them around compared to your traditional modular home. And this one came out really nice. We're really happy with it. And then we are still underway with Virginia's first 3D printed house that is right across the street from our office. We'd love to host anybody to come and see it. But what we've learned on this one is the real thing is by 3D printing, you get your framing, your exterior siding, your insulation, and your interior drywall, which you don't have drywall, but you have concrete, all in one go. It's a real time saver when you can get it right. And then I'll just kind of breeze through our affordable rental. We have a small rental portfolio of scattered site duplexes and about 300 units of senior, housing for older adults that is rented to low income older adults. And we develop these using low income housing tax credits. Happy to talk more about that if that's something of interest to folks that have questions, but we can kind of leave it there for now.
Awesome. I'm going to take a quicker overview of mobile homes and kind of maybe say in the future, if you ever want an in-depth presentation on one project, we really have it here with this mobile home community. So I'm going to do that pretty brief so we can open up for questions. So we actually got involved in our journey around mobile homes. And people know them as trailers, and the politically correct term is manufactured housing now. But we actually bought a mobile home park. And along our journey, we really realized it's a big part of the affordable housing continuum. But this is the style product that is in our market that needs to be improved and upgraded. And it serves a very low income population, but they're poor quality and they're hard to finance. But they're very affordable, and they're like a single family detached home, and they're communities of people. So we set out to destigmatize, and we're still on our journey to create a better opportunity for people to live and provide affordable housing. And so we bought this mobile home park in September of 2020 called Bermuda Estates. And we immediately set out to make improvements with the infrastructure and putting in new roads and new lighting. And it's mostly a Hispanic or Latinx community. And so we've embarked on a community engagement process, which is a really important step. Hopefully you guys are learning all about new ways of engagement. And we've really put a lot of time into building a trust relationship in the community that we purchased, that people live in homes. So we've been doing that work for the last year, getting to know neighbors, learning about their concerns, talking with them about where they live and seeing where we could make improvements. And this was the last event we had over the holidays. Uh, so we're now embarking on this process of improving the community and looking at developing a better, more quality home. And we've gone through this massive process of learning about the manufactured housing industry. And the basic bottom line is it costs a lot, and there's no incentive for a factory to change their systems. So this house is what is present in our community. The conditions inside, these are not much of buildings. They really are thin and energy inefficient, and in some cases in danger of falling down. This was the worst unit in the park that we tore down when we purchased the park. But we really set out to do a couple quick things, which is make mobile homes look more like a house from the outside, make them condition the space under them so that they don't lose energy, keep them dry by adding eaves and gutters, and then standardizing the products that are put in. So we've actually done one replacement unit in the park. This is our, and we've sold this unit and we have a model home, and we are embarking on a process of building our own mobile homes because we don't think the industry can create what we would like. So we've partnered with Virginia Tech, unfortunately, but they've helped us come up with this new design because we got a grant to do this work together. And we're going to embark on a journey of building new mobile homes on top of all the other things we talked about. So I wanted to kind of pause there, and then the last piece of our discussion was really the special relationship that Matt and I have. Matt Morgan I'm an adjunct professor, and I met Matt years and years, a decade ago or more, and he was a student, and he's also a graduate of your master's urban planning program. So I thought quickly Matt could talk about part of that career journey.
Yeah, it's fun we're doing this together because I got into housing from taking Lee's housing class at VCU, and I think that's a common thing. And we have this sort of alumni network at Product Homes of Lee's interns he's recruited, but I just refused to go away. And I promised I would tell a quick story, which is I was denied by Lee my first internship application at Product Homes, but he did write me my letter of recommendation to UVA, and I graduated from UVA in 2014. But I was working at Nordstrom in between, and I bumped into Lee in just outside the women's shoes section of Nordstrom because his wife was there, and we started talking, and he was just impressed by me going to UVA that he had to offer me an internship on the spot. But after that, I did my in between my two graduate planning school years as an intern at Product Homes, and I just really liked being there. And I think what I took away was this. I had kind of thought I was going to end up working at some city to being a planner. And then after being at Product Homes, I was like, it's really cool to just go out there and get some stuff done sometimes. And I think kind of the best thing I did was what we haven't talked about, we have a for-profit subsidiary, and they were hiring someone to ship orders and take orders over the phone and do customer service. And I realized I could do everything I was doing as an intern and all of that at the same time. So I just went for it and decided I was going to do that. And just over time, just kept the work I was doing with Marion, who's my boss, and staying in the revitalization side and doing everything I could. And then eventually I was able to go back to doing that full time. And now I manage those programs that I was kind of dreaming of being a part of. So I'm happy to talk about like more specifics on that, but that's like my quick version.
And I'll just add really quick on my journey. You coming out of school, sometimes you make some tough choices about, like, maybe it seems like a sideways move, but Matt's decision to just commit to an aspect of our company that was empty, that needed help to get his foot in the door was, I think, a really wise decision. And when I got out of grad school, my first job was reviewing building permits at Henrico County, and didn't feel like the best use of my education, but I was quickly, I got my foot in the door. So last little piece of advice is just getting your foot in the door of a good organization. So it's not a bad plan. So
Awesome.
thank you for
Yeah, thank you. This has been great. This is amazing work you guys are doing.